gun control. It's the gift that keeps on giving. No matter how loudly the American people speak about not wanting additional and stronger gun control laws implemented and forced down their throat, Congress, Washington, D.C., and the White House continue to come up with new measures and try to twist certain current events into their favor to try to promote and push these new agenda items that they're trying to force through. One of the things that you hear a lot of here lately is they're talking about this no-fly list. They're spinning this as if to say, well, if somebody's on the no-fly list and we assume they could be a terrorist, surely we don't want them buying guns. Well, you know what? On the surface, that sounds great. That sounds really reasonable. That sounds really common sense, as they like to use all the time. What their real motive is to put more people on the no-fly list so that they have more people that they can restrict from owning firearms. Plus, they can revoke firearms. You have to read the meat of this law. Let's take a look, first of all, at the no-fly list. The no-fly list is a list created and maintained by the United States government's Terrorist Screening Center, the TSC, of people who are not permitted to board a commercial aircraft or travel in or outside the United States. This list was created after the September 11th attacks in 2001 by President George W. Bush, and it was retained by the administration of President Barack Obama. As we stated earlier, the U.S. government's Terrorist Screening Center is who manages the no-fly list. The Terrorist Screening Center is a division of the National Security Branch of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. It's the duty of the TSC to identify suspected or potential terrorists. But the interesting thing is, who makes up the TSC, the Terrorist Screening Center? Look at the people who are on this list of people who are eligible to have input as far as who goes on the no-fly list. It includes representatives from the United States Department of Justice, which we would expect, the United States Department of State, which we would expect, the United States Department of Homeland Security, which we would definitely expect, the United States Department of Defense, and last but not least, the United States, get this, Postal Service. Now, another problem with the no-fly list is the very fact that you may not and probably won't ever know that you are on the no-fly list until you try to fly. They don't send you a letter. They don't send you a certificate congratulating you for making the no-fly list. You're just on it, and it's kind of a secretive list. And I mean after you buy the ticket, not before or at the time of buying the ticket. You will buy your airline ticket. When you get to that airline, when you get to that gate to board that plane, that's when they're going to tell you that you cannot fly. Now, one of the things our politicians and the gun control lobby do is they try to take numbers that are legitimate numbers from one group and apply it to another group so that it tells their story and it basically supports their narrative. What we have to do as pro-gun people and pro-Second Amendment people is dig through those numbers and prove them wrong, which we have done in this case. What the president is trying to do, and people in the gun control lobby, is they're trying to say that there are a huge number of people that are on the no-fly list who have been approved for purchasing guns in a very long period of time. That's not true. What you have to do is you have to understand the makeup of the list. There's a terrorist watch list, and then there's a no-fly list. These are two totally separate lists. Now, one contains the other one. The terrorist watch list is made up of the no-fly list, but it's also made up of lots of other lists that feed into that. In other words, the terrorist watch list itself contains the no-fly list and many other lists of, I guess, similar lists of people that there are warnings or red flags that they gotta kind of get put on. That doesn't mean that everybody on the terrorist watch list cannot fly. What they don't tell you is which lists they're pulling from. The bill doesn't spell that out. Are they pulling from the 50,000 people in the no-fly list, or are they pulling from the terrorist watch list that has over 1 million people in it? Big difference there. So when you hear the president and other congressmen say that 500 people were allowed to buy firearms who were on the no-fly list, not true. They may not have even been on the no-fly list. None of them may have been on the no-fly list. Maybe 4 or 5 even. They were on the terrorist watch list, a totally different list. Again, one makes up the other. You will find everyone on the no-fly list is on the terrorist watch list. But everybody on the terrorist watch list, a very few of those are actually in the no-fly list. Again, 50,000 to over 1 million. Big difference there. So the gun control lobby and the White House are trying to solve a problem that simply does not exist. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into the law that they want to pass as far as no-fly list people being able to purchase guns. The bill is called H.R. 1076, in case you want to look it up. Go to congress.gov and look up H.R. 1076. The name of the bill is the Denying Firearms and Explosives to Dangerous Terrorists Act of 2015. Now we're trying to really twist these things and make it look like if you don't want to support the dangerous terrorist law, then something must be wrong with you. Well, of course. Without getting into the meat of the bill, because again, you can go read it on congress.gov, H.R. 1076 gives the Attorney General of the United States of America power to where he or his office can deny purchase of firearms to individuals. They can revoke firearms from individuals. They can deny issuance of a federal firearms license to any business or dealer, or they can revoke a federal firearms license from any business or dealer. They can take our firearms legally because they would have a congressional bill to do it. Now, I'm not going to get into the Constitution, what the Constitution allows. That's all for another argument. I'm simply telling you what this bill says. They're designing this bill to where they can keep you and I from purchasing firearms, but also revoke. There's revocation in this bill for taking firearms from people who are simply suspected terrorists. We're not talking about the two yahoos over in San Bernardino that shot people up. We're talking about suspected terrorists. This could be you buying 1,000 rounds of ammo from some website online. It could be that simple. If I order 1,000 rounds of competition ammunition from T1 Ammunition, suddenly I'm on the list, and suddenly you can confiscate, revoke basically because of this bill giving you the power to do so. You can revoke my firearms, all of them, and I can never purchase one again. But equally as bad as that is the very fact that they can put gun businesses out of business. That's the thing that's very telling to me. It's one thing to attack the individuals because you're never going to put everybody on this list. They'll never do that. There will be a revolt before that happens. But you would be able to hand-pick gun businesses who were, for one thing, applying for new FFLs. If you want a brand new federal firearms license, they could simply deny it. Now, what's even more scary is that they would be able to go and revoke these FFL licenses from all of these people out there also who currently have them. Think about that. Think about a gun shop out there, maybe one of these ones that puts the signs up, Obama's the #1 gun salesman of the year. Think about all these people who aren't shy about going out there and doing that because they know they run a legitimate business. Well, now these businesses could be singled out. They could be looking at the guy who holds the FFL to those particular businesses, single him out because no doubt he probably has a lot of firearms, and revoke that business's firearm license. What better way to curb gun sales than to put the businesses out of business? This is a memo from the Department of Homeland Security in the year 2013, and it's entitled Weapons Discovery. It's basically telling all of the federal agents to watch out for people who are in possession of large amounts of weapons, ammunition, explosive, accelerants, or explosive precursor chemicals that could indicate pre-operational terrorist attack planning or criminal activity. Anyone who received this DHS letter would basically have the grounds to report me. It doesn't mean that I'm even going to get arrested, but I'm getting reported. All we're looking at here is the fact that you can simply get reported as being suspicious or performing some suspicious activities by simply possessing or purchasing firearms and ammunition. And you could go on this list, the Terror Watch list, and end up on the no-fly list. Therefore, if this bill passes, you would not be eligible to purchase a firearm, possibly have your firearms revoked, and God forbid you own a business where you sell or transfer firearms legally, you would no longer be able to do that and you'd be put out of business. This no-fly list bill that you're trying to ram down everybody's throat and to try to guilt all the gun owners into supporting it is not a good thing. For all the people out there who are trying to make this incorrect comparison between the no-fly list and the constitutional right to purchase firearms, let me say this. The Constitution does not protect or afford you the right to fly on an airplane in the United States of America. If the government wants to keep you off of an airplane, that's their business. That's between you and the government. But that cannot be tied to something that is protected by the Constitution, which is the Second Amendment. You have the constitutional right, if you are not a felon, to own a firearm. And that's got nothing to do with the right or the ability to fly on an airplane in this country.
Hey, I'm Max Michelle, and I'm on Gun District. Why aren't you?